Like I thought that's what it said, but I couldn't remember.
Perfect. Okay, so the first question says, what narrative do you think we in the pro-family movement have adopted? Is it effective? What do you guys think?
It's effective if you're in the line with the pro family movement. I think, let's see, let me put down, um, okay, that's right. I think that, the pro family movement usually uses a lot of facts, and I usually do that. They've some of the stuff like United Families International, they do incorporate stories about what it is, but I kind of feel like that if you're not, you know, and that this kind of goes into one of the things that it says that most people, if it's anti-gay or anti-abortion or something like that, they won't even bother to read it because it's just like, oh, that's bunk or whatever. That's what I hear from people.
That's interesting. I think it's really cool how you are up to date on the, what is it called? United Families International.
Yeah, my husband, we got involved and have donated to them. So yeah,
That's so cool.
it's mostly my husband. He sits there and tells me, "Did you know? Did you know?" I'm going,
That's cool. That's really cool. Gina, were you gonna say something? You were unmuted.
Oh, no, sorry, I just
Oh,
never re
that's okay. Um, so when I read this question, I thought about what Sister Barlow said, that they really need a lot of help adopting like a story with the pro family movement. She said, especially for the older generations, because I think it was a lot different in the way of life that the older generation had compared to what it is now. So it's kind of hard to tell a story that's going to um, be effective and relate to people now who value personal gratification and happiness, when in the past it was more about the family first. And she also talked about how, I can't remember what she said, but she was talking about children too. So I thought that maybe that would be an approach that we could make. Like, what is best for children, and how have children turned out, and that are put in less than ideal situations. Like, maybe tell stories about children grown up in um, divorced family, or maybe same-sex couple for their parents, and find stories like that where it shows that it maybe wasn't the best ideal circumstance for them. That's just something I thought of. Any other thoughts? Diana, we're just on the first question, if you have any thoughts on that.
so the thing about, and it's interesting because there is a group of people that were raised by um, gays that are coming out and saying, that this isn't a good situation normally because they miss their father figure for if it's lesbians, the mother figure, that they actually get roped into gay lifestyle and participating in risky behavior because just so that's the environment they're in, and the gays really shut them down. This guy lost his job at a university because he came out against it, saying, I was raised by gays and this is what happened. So that's part of the problem, is how do we get people to listen when you've got such a group that just yells and screams and gets people shut down. The CEO from Mozilla a few years ago resigned because of it. He had made a contribution of his own funds to the pro-marriage coalition or something like that, and it came out, and the pressure from the gay community made him step down. So how do you combat that? I don't know.
I think this comes back to the minority being louder than the majority. And we need to, because I have a feeling, like, I don't know numbers exactly, but I have a feeling that the people who are for traditional marriage and other things, pro family and whatnot, is louder than the ones who oppose it. But the ones who oppose it are louder in their, advocating for their side. And so things happen like the guy stepping down. And if more people on the pro family side of things would step out and advocate effectively, things like that wouldn't happen. But they don't, because they think they're in the majority or the minority.
I think another aspect of it too is the reason they have such a voice is because they're very angry about it. And the people that are pro-family try not to be angry. They try to be sensible in most cases, not always, but in most cases. And so you just have a lot of yelling, screaming, and calling names from the gay rights people, and the pro-family people are trying to say, these are facts, these are stories, this is the way it is, let's be reasonable. But we just seem to be in a society when it's more important to yell and scream and be angry.
Well, I think also going along with that, in one of my other classes, I was reading a chapter in a book where he talks about the American culture, and he's talking about depression in America and why he thinks it's so prevalent. But I think it kind of fits this situation too, because he talks about the fact that America's created this feel-good culture, and we want everyone to have this great self-esteem. We want them to feel good all the time. We implement all these things into our schools, trying to push that feel-good culture and to make sure that no one's ever sad or mad or angry, or that they don't disagree with each other. So I think the idea that we can't have dysphoria, which is, feelings of anger and anything, really is why the minority takes over, because in our culture, it's become not acceptable to be angry or to fight with people or to make them feel bad. And I think that's kind of why we have a hard time with that, is because we think, oh no, like, I'm going to make them sad or depressed. And so I think that's kind of why the majority's having such a hard time with the minority who's yelling, because they don't want to hurt their feelings.
See, I'm old. I would just say, just get over it.
I really like that thought, Diane. I think that's true. I went to like a seminar last night about, it was called How to Be Nice to Yourself. And they talked about the difference between like making excuses, and he brought up actually that movement that schools had with self-esteem, and he talked about self-compassion, how those are different. So if you guys haven't ever heard of self-compassion, you should look it up. It was really good. Beatrice, did you have anything to add? Or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. So the second question says, how do you think we are viewed by those who oppose us? How could we change that narrative?
I think we're seen as these hateful bigots who don't understand, aren't willing to understand or listen, and we just want to like enslave people in our way of life. And I think people really think that we are like uneducated, and that we're trying to take people's individuality away from them. I think that they think that we're a very old-fashioned group and that our ideas are just outdated.
Okay. I think I'm going to just to quote what the elder cook says, that we need to be civil in our discussions, in our discuss, and respectful in our interaction. He said that it's appropriate to disagree, but it's not appropriate to be disagreeable. He encouraged us to show through our savors, our interaction with others, that we follow our Savior. Basically, he encouraged us to show through our actions or the way that we talk and following the Lord, our Savior example.
So it's a lot along the lines with what Diana was saying, is that people that oppose the pro-family movement, they think that people are pro-family, they're just naive and live in a bubble, or they think that we're living in the past and we can't just get with it and understand where culture is going today. And, you know, you can't stop it. That's just where we are, and we're moving forward and you need to catch up, kind of thing.
So one thing, I recently read a article put out by the church that was talking about the bakery in like Colorado that was won their court case for denying the same-sex couple making their wedding cake. And one thing that the church said at some point in time, I don't remember when they said it while this was going on, but basically they were saying that, you know, they have no problem with gays having the same rights when it comes to housing, when it comes to work, when it comes to, I don't remember what else. But I think it's important that we support them on the positions that we are willing to support them. So, you know, like with equal housing, equal pay, whatever those issues are. And, you know, if we support them with those things that we are willing to support them in, maybe they'll be understanding with the sides that we don't. Hopefully, I know it's not a perfect world, but, you know, come together on the positions that we can come together on, and then hopefully have them be better. I know that's not how it often happens, but
Yeah, most of the time is you gave us concessions on here, now let's see if we can get concessions on other things. Something very interesting, there is a gay couple that makes t-shirts, and they will not make t-shirts for things that they find offensive, but you don't hear about that. They don't get called to court. So it's very, very one-sided. I thought it was interesting that the reason that the Baker, won the case on the Supreme Court was because they felt that the courts in Colorado had been, what was the word? Aggressively against, kind of, that's not exact word. And so it's really not precedent setting at this point. There's still other ones that will need to be brought forward before, but making somebody do something, whether it's a company or an individual that goes against what they believe, it's quickly becoming a Nazi world.
Well, and that was kind of the churches. They're like, we're willing to support this, but you need to stand up for the First Amendment rights to have that freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
Exactly.
So
well, those are all really great points. I agree with what everybody said. And just to add to how could we change that narrative, I would say when it comes to the side of their view of they think we shouldn't really let people, or we should let people love how they want to or live how they want to and just not worry about it because it doesn't affect us. Maybe we could start talking about how we see the choices of others do affect ourselves and society at large. So that's just a thought I had. Any last minute thoughts? Okay, so the next question says, what are your thoughts on Marsha's mini speech given at Harvard? I can start this time. I thought it was really brave of her to stand up for what she believed in and not really switch out her beliefs just to conform to what the audience wanted her to say. But I thought she still used grace and kindness in how she chose to deliver the message. And I really loved how she used the format of stories to help her audience see and feel what she was feeling too. Just the way she formatted it in the story. She told the story of her and then related it to how it might relate to everybody else. And then the story of now, like what we can do moving forward. And I thought it was really effective and a good way to state what she believed.
I thought it was really cool because she was able to state in a very eloquent way what she stood for and draw the other people in, but also the professor at the end, you're Mormon, huh? So, I mean, she espoused all those beliefs without ever saying it. She couched it totally in secular language, which was awesome.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's super cool how bold she is about the fact that you can like teach without like pulling religion into that. And I thought it was really cool. She talks about like, you need to figure out how you're going to present these things without sugarcoating them, like with the church says this or the church says that. And I thought that was really cool because I think there's lots of times when we think the only way we can advocate is through the church. And I think that sometimes that's like the least successful way. And so I thought it was really cool that she was very bold in her stance on like find a way to do it without using the church per se.
I think to everybody say something about her so good about, I write down here, and she sent an invitation to the young adults to support pro-family movement and be able to understand. She encouraged, or she mentioned, like, if you want to be part of the support this movement, you need to be able to understand and communicate effectively that issue. It's basically, it's not just to say what we believe. We need to understand and to learn how to communicate what we understand and what our beliefs.
I also think that by not bringing church or religion into it, you reach a wider audience, because you're going to hit that audience anyway, because they, oh yeah, that's what I believe, and to do that. But when you don't bring it in, you have other people listening and starting to think about it.
Yeah, Bobby, I like that you said that, because I was just like, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the fact that in the church we teach that we are not to force our religion upon people. And I think that if you only ever advocate, or you try to tell all these people to change because of religion, like, you're kind of doing exactly what we're asked not to do. Like, we're asked not to force people into the church. We're taught that people have their own agency and that they can choose for themselves. And so to go out and say, like, you have to reform and believe what my church believes, like, that's totally against what the brethren teach. They'd rather you go out and say, this is what's good for the country. Here's the facts why. Here's why we advocate for this. And then they'll be like more willing to be like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I believe that too. But I think that that's important to remember, is that the church asks us not to do it.
So here's a question for you guys. Where do you think the line is between sharing your testimony with others and, I guess, not bringing religion into it too? Like, when's the right time to share your testimony with people?
I think a lot of that, you have to listen to the Spirit when it comes to when to share your testimony, especially when, like, you're coming at it from an advocating standpoint. Most of the time, if you are advocating for something, it's not going to be appropriate to share your testimony. But if you're in tune with the Spirit and it says, hey, you really ought to, then yeah, you probably should.
I like that. Oh, sorry. Did you have something to add, Diana?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, along with like what Gina was saying, like, I love that she said, like, to use the Spirit. And I think along with that, like, we can help by using that Spirit, like, knowing the setting we're in. Because I think we're all pretty intelligent, and I think when it would be appropriate in like a setting to share your testimony, and when it wouldn't. Like, I mean, you're not going to go to the UN and get up and share your testimony, but I think, like, afterwards, if someone came up to you and said, man, those are interesting beliefs, where do they come from? Then you could be like, well, this is how I was raised, this is my testimony of these truths. So I think you just have to realize, like, watch what setting you're in and what people are going to respond to best. Because either way, I think technically you're sharing your testimony because it's truth, but I really like the Spirit. But I think that knowing your setting can help a lot.
So I guess another question would be, can you bear your testimony without invoking, the church or something?
I think you totally can. Like, Diana was saying, that you you know, you're sharing truths, and therefore you're sharing your testimony. Just because you don't say, you know, in the name of Jesus Christ, amen, or, you know, start by saying, you know, I know, you know, I'm testifying that these things are true, you can still share your testimony.
I love that. Thanks for answering that, guys. You guys had some good insights. Angie, we're glad you're here. Okay, so we'll did you have any thoughts? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's fine. Just as far as testimony goes, just share it when it's appropriate. Share it when you're not going to make other people angry. Uh, just make sure that it's a place and a time that's convenient, that it's appropriate. It's where the Spirit can, testify to those in the room. If it's an event where it's not really appropriate to share your personal belief system, just have to be aware.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, what did you learn from the article that you read in preparation for the video?
Which article?
Oh, go ahead.
Which article is that? Sorry.
I think it's any of them. That's what I got out of that question.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can get organized here, but you guys go ahead.
I guess when I was reading them, like, it really helped me to see how much opposition there really is out there against the family. Like, a few that I didn't really think about was the one that's still, like the one from China. And like incest and everything. Like, I didn't really think that those ideas were, I hadn't really thought about it. So, I think that when people don't have the principles and revelation given from the gospel, life really just does get confusing. And it made me feel that it's more urgent to actually get out there and to share the message of the gospel using secular language. And I also learned that using stories, if done correctly, can really influence people.
So some of the links thought a lot of the articles, the person's point of view, some like the first two, it's like they were trying to sound like they were impartial, but you could tell their point of view. It bled through what they were writing. Then there was also after seeing Marcia's presentation, it brought a lot of the other things out that I could see how, like, the alerts from Family International went with the story, then they told facts, and they had a call to action. They followed the formula in both articles there. And then I really liked the one about storytelling in civic and political leadership, because I think it really showed, and I was talking to my husband about this, that, the conservative side really isn't very good about telling stories. They're more about facts, and the other side is a lot better about telling the story to get their message out there. And just really impressed with the fact that you need to tell stories so you can relate to the people and get them more sympathetic with your side and what you're trying to accomplish.
I really enjoyed the articles because kind of like Matea, I guess. I mean, I knew they were out there, but like the bakery one, I had never, like I'd heard about it, but I'd never read it for myself. And I personally enjoy reading the news. Like I love reading the news. I love seeing what's going on, what's happening. And so it was really cool to like to see that all these things were happening. And I kind of thought, you know, I loved the article about China, and talking about how detrimental the one child law had been on China. Cause I think like what a like worldly like law, and then people took it and twisted it to the point where they were like just killing like mass amounts of women because all of a sudden they didn't want a daughter, they wanted a son to carry on their name. And so I thought like that was super interesting, but I also love in newspaper articles how like the writer makes you feel like he has an unbiased opinion, but by the end of the article, all of a sudden you're like agreeing with his opinion, even though it wasn't ever stated. And so I've always thought that was very interesting about newspapers, is that they mold it in such a way that you think they're just reporting the facts, when in fact, you know, they are like looping you into what they also believe. I mean, you have to watch out for it, but I think it's cool that they can do it.
Yeah, part of the China thing, this is, I don't know, maybe a little off topic, but part of the China thing about that, it's really cultural. They also have issues with that in India. If you could only have, people are only wanting 1 or 2 children. It showed that chart at the end where, you know, similar countries, the birth rate has gone down, but because they're only wanting 1 or 2 children, they'll abort if the first child is a female. Just and it's really cultural to want the male, and it's caused really big imbalance. And well, just the fact of abortion and everything is really school. I think you've probably all seen Demographic Winter or something, where it's all really messed up the it's going to mess up the economy and everything else.
It's really sad that they don't value girls as much as boys in the country. I don't remember much from the article. I think I browsed through it, but just main points is that it's just sad what's going on there. Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the next question. What do you learn about persuasive speaking in Taylor Molly's speech?
One thing that I found really interesting about his speech is his use of vocal inflection, and how, you know, he was stating facts, but because his voice went up at the end, it was presented more like a question. And it just is interesting to me how you can say something and it technically is a fact, but how you say it affects what people hear.
Well, that, and it was emphasizing his point. He also had great use of body language. And then it was really cool. His call to action was very declarative without the going up at the end. It was very declarative. So his call to action was really good.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the vast majority of what we say is not the words that we say, but how we say it and what our body language is. I took American Sign Language, and in that, the signs are not nearly as important as your facial expressions and whatnot.
Yeah, I took a lot of American Sign Language, and yeah, it was very interesting, and how important it is when you sign it by your face so they can get the meaning from your face.
And the same can be said for our own speaking, but people don't realize how not important the words are.
It's so true. And, you know, I found that video to be just hilarious because it's so true. The way that they talk to people talk these days is very much looking for validation. And so it's always like this question, like, do you approve kind of a statement in everything that they say? And so I thought it was really funny. I thought, yes, he did a great job with the gestures, hand gestures, eye contact, motions. All of that was really good, spot on. Um, and so I liked that. I liked that video a lot. I think that it's a good way of showing what's true, and he did a good job presenting that speech.
I really like how he mockingly used the term, you know, a lot, because I think that, like, I've heard public speakers at the end of what they say go, you know? And I'm like, no, we don't know. Like, this is why you're supposed to be like speaking. And I do it a lot, especially when I'm not prepared. But I had a teacher in high school, and we gave 3 presentations throughout the semester. And one of the things he graded us the most heavily on was how we presented. And if we said any word that was, if we said like, or or you know, or any of those filler words that aren't actually words, he would sit back there and mark them down, and you got them deducted off of your grade, and they were big projects. But I remember that because he did that, now afterwards I sit down, and if I'm listening to someone speak and they're using like and a lot, I don't even want to listen to them talk anymore, because to me it's very uneducated of them, and it's just so hard to listen because those are the only words I hear.
Beatrice, I know you're writing away over there. Did you have anything else to add?
Yes. Um, what I said in what I write down is I said in both speech that contain knowledge, because they asked what is our this is a question, right, about opposition to civil marriage, right? Or which one? What do you learn about the persuasive? This is a one. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay. What did I learn is he says what we need to speak with conviction and determination on what we believe. I like that, because no matter what you say, and for me this is so difficult for me because I am doing it in a second language. I have more success when I do it in Spanish, but in the second language it's very hard for me to say, because it's my second language is I am not fluent 100%. And but it's true that we need to be we need to speak with conviction and determination in what we believe, and not hesitate, not be like I don't know for sure. Just people can tell that we are confident or not, no matter what we say, but the people can tell.
I love that. I think it's really cool that you know 2 languages, by the way. I would love to know Spanish. So let's go to the next question on the opposition to civil marriage, that one. So what principles of effective speaking from writing and speaking persuasively did you see in each speech?
This is I start saying because I skipped last question before, but I said in both speech that contain knowledge and good communication and persuasive and conviction on their beliefs, both of them. And I don't know. For me, I got surprised. I don't know. Then all of you noticed that. But at first, I noticed when the first let me see, what is that guy who talked about pro family, right? Yeah, he mentioned about religion and everything, and even people start leaving the room, and their faces, their body language in the audience was completely different with the second guy who was pro marriage about Zach. I think he was the one. I don't know. I am lost, but I don't know.
No, I agree that the first one, when he did start coming from a strictly religious point of view, people kind of turned off, and I know I turned off even though I agreed with the points he was making. You know, the way he was coming at it made my brain just shut down because it was so heavily religious. And then the other guy, it was a more conversational tone and more persuasive, I felt, even though I don't agree with the points that he made.
Yeah, I think kind of going along with that it so according to the writing and speaking persuasively, you know, Marcia Barlow, I think her name was, she said that you shouldn't bring up religion in, you know, I said, you know, that's really bad. You shouldn't bring up religion in discussions that are civil or in courts, or when it's not appropriate to bring up religious points or make a religious side of the argument. And that's what the guy in the first speech did, is he spoke, it was very heavily weighted religiously. The other guy, it wasn't related religiously, but he did use a lot of you knows and, you know, this is true, you know, that is, you know. So that was his kind of downside to his speech. But the second video, he appealed to the crowds more. He tried to speak in a way that, you know, help them feel emotion and want to be a part of, I don't know, agree with him, I guess. So that was the upside to his speech. But yeah, they both had their ups and downs.
So I had a hard time finding stuff that I thought was effective speaking in the first speech. I mean, it was memorable, but I don't know if it was memorable in a good way. Like I could tell that the young man was very, very passionate about what he was speaking about, but the only reason in my mind that it was memorable because I thought, man, this is ridiculous. Like, this dude is an idiot. I thought that was very good of him to get up and to state his beliefs, but I felt like he attacked people with the church. He told them that they were bad and awful and basically going to hell for all the things that they were doing, and that like Sodom and Gomorrah would be burned, and like that's fine for church sermon, but I was very unimpressed because that's when you're trying to change public policy. That is not how you go about it at all. And I as a religious person was ashamed for religion because I felt like it was so far from what God teaches and what God wants. And then the second speech was really good. I thought he had a personal story that was impactful, and his personal story was so personal, and he presented it with so much passion that it would have been hard to attack that because you don't want, because you would have had to attack him, and then you would just look like the jerk. Except for I didn't like that he didn't have any facts. It was all just his personal story, his personal opinion. And this is bad of me, but when he said, I'm 19 years old and there have been no bad adverse effects on me having two mothers, I immediately thought, oh, you're only 19? Like, how do you really know how that's affected you? You haven't been out of your parents' house for very long, or you might not be out of it yet. So you really don't know because you are so young. And so I thought that statement kind of shot him in the foot with his speech because it was very, very good. But then I was like, well, you presented zero research and then basically said that you haven't had much life experience. So I thought like he doesn't know anything else.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Diane said. Is a lot of the things that I had down. Also, the first speech, he kept having to go look at his paper. What's my next point? Oh yeah, blah blah blah. You're going to burn in hell. What's my next point? Oh yeah, you're going to burn in hell. Basically. And the second one, the first one used. I don't think he was that passionate. He was angry more than I would say passionate. The second speaker I felt was very passionate and drew the audience in with his personal story. Good use of hand movements and his voice. He followed, this is, kind of the past that I was raised to the present. This is what happens when people, they don't realize I was raised by that because I'm just kind of normal, to the future, that this is going to have an impact, or, it won't change that we're families, but it's going to have an impact. So he used that really well. The thing that, the thing that he lacked was any facts. It was just all his personal opinion. So if he would have brought facts in, it would have, or a study in it would have made it very powerful. I personally didn't see anything that was very effective in the first guy's speech.
Right. Great job, guys. You all had really awesome comments and it helped me to learn more. So I'm sure it helped everyone else too. So why don't we have Beatrice sum up our meeting and we can go ahead and close. You're muted, Beatrice.
I'm sorry, too much to say, I couldn't read so fast. I think you can do better than me, but I did my best, okay? And let me see, start with the first question. The first question we talk about what narrative. So you think we in the pro-family movement was adopted? This Bobby saying it's affected in pro-family, and and many use facts and incorporate stories. And she said, and how help people to listen about issues or contact, convert, convert them or convert that, something like that. And Mataya talking about the basically they ask for uh, we need help from young adults and past family, past family first, and basically like the point is we need that she mentioned like we need help. And Gina talking about that majority is about this one is the majority is louder, but those who are opposite. And the second question about how we can view those about us, and uh, Diana talking about the people really think we really are and are great. We try to take people in individually form. Bobby mentioned like sometimes people are one side, like like bias, and people think about pro family that they are naive, live in the or live in the past. And Gina mentioned like it is important to support with those who are willing to support. It is important. It is important, and willing to support. But in Mataya say how we can change that. We can start to show other people point of view. And the third question about Marcia's mini speech, Mataya said then she was um, she thought that Marcia was very brave, and she used kindness, and she told her stories about what we can do and know and stand up for what we believe or what. And Bobby mentioned that he um, about her secular language and to bring religion, that she suggests Marsha to bring religious into the topic to the audience. And Diana mentioned we can teach without involve religion. And she thought then Marsha was very bold and very brave. She was good. And Gina mentioned like oh, Mataya mentioned about how we can share our testimony. Gina mentioned like by using the spirit and help us what we say in testimony. And Angela say share when it's appropriate and when it's appropriate. And we went to the next question about how we can be persuasive. I think I lost. And basically how we can share, we can use our opposition are many people who do not have our principles. And we're talking about China situation, and Marsha mentioned it's urgent to help. Bobby mentioned like the conservatives use more facts than data, more than stories to accomplish what is necessary to accomplish. Diana shared it very interesting how modern the articles are. And Angela say it's very sad in how China have more boys than girls is that situation is. And we need to we almost done. We need to use about the opposite people marriage. We need to use more the video. We share more body language and the way that people talk, and gesture is very Angela mentioned, like the way that people talk and gesture, eye contact, very say, and Diana say how we present is one of the most important when we share that. The last one is about opposition in a simple marriage. The first guy was very, Gina mentioned, very religious, and the second guy more persuasive. Angela mentioned like mm, Marsha said, we don't bring religious. And Diana say the second person used more personal stories, but not fast. It's basically he doesn't have experience in life. And this is what I don't know how well I did, but I did my best.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you for doing
You're
that.
welcome. You're welcome.
Who hasn't recorded, been the discussion leader or the recorder yet? Or not the recorder, the note taker.
I can do the recorder if just I need to double check how can I do this next time. I can do the recorder, but just I need to learn exactly. I can see on my screen the button say recorder. This is the only thing that I can do it. That I need to do it to record, then copy the link. Okay. It's basically when we start that conversation, we just like put the turn on the button. They say it's recording. Then when we done, just copy and link the link, I think, in the top. This is that way.
So you'll upload it to YouTube and then share the link from YouTube to our discussion board. If that makes sense.
I need to download it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or else you'll have to download our whole video, and it's like an hour long, so it's too much for her to download it. So.
Just I need to download it in YouTube first.
Yes, to YouTube, and then YouTube will give you a link.
Okay, basically I need to go again to the review the instructions about how to do that, right? They have in the first class, I mean lesson, right? The instructions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you need help, I can, and you need to meet before, I can help you too.
I am going to go to the instructions first. If I still need help, I will let you know. But thank you. I have a goodbye, everybody.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay, perfect.